Yeah, I believe in you. I don't believe in lucky sevens. I'm not sure about my nest, but I know I believe in angels. I believe in happiness.
Good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to see all of you, although I'm not seeing you, right? There's no audience. It's just a figure of speech, and one of the figures of speech, I have to say, that really doesn't make any sense to me is the break a leg. Like, you're going to go out on stage and just knock them dead. It's like these weird cliches. What is a weird cliche that just every time you hear it, you kind of stop and go, that doesn't make any damn sense, but it's summertime here in Georgia, and we are hot, hot, hot. We got sharks all over our Georgia coast, North Carolina coast, Florida coast. I mean, it's like swimming in Australia. What I would think of swimming in the ocean would be shark full. My daughter has a conspiracy theory going, so I'm going to go ahead and give birth to it. She believes that there is a bigger animal out there in the middle of the ocean that has bred and now has all these other bigger baby animals that are chasing all the sharks closer to shore. That's her theory. And I'm like, what, like the Loch Ness Monster or something? She's like, yeah, but bigger. So I would like to know, what do you think on that? And without any further ado, let's get a little more serious with our financial expert, J.C. Schweingrouber. How are you? Whoa, that's a lot of you. Hold on, let me change this up here. There we go.
All right. Hey, I feel like I'm zooming in, zooming out, Whoa. But I'm gonna get dizzy. I'm gonna get dizzy. Hey, that's a great conspiracy theory. I really like that. I think those things are so much fun. I love that meme where you got like Bigfoot riding on the back of Loch Ness. Have you seen that?
No,
it's like the rare photo. Yeah, it's taken in like that rare photo form, like you can't tell it's grainy, But yeah, what if there was just like some big ass barracuda about 2 miles off coast?
That's what she's thinking. She's like, Mom, it just doesn't make any sense. And I mean, I have to agree with her. A lot of people are saying, well, it's global warming. The waters are warmer. I don't know. I don't know that I buy it. It's not like it's 10, 20, 30 degrees warmer. You know what I mean? We're talking about a very small temperature change, if anything. And really, I think the waters were warmer last year and the year before on the Florida Panhandle than it is this year. So what are they coming in so close to the coast for?
I have no idea. But you know what? There might be an Arthur Fonzarelli sighting. All right, you got to be kind of old to get that one, right? I don't know, like before, but a little bit before our time, even, right?
It is, but
it's the Happy Days. Those who don't get it,
I know. It was such a great Happy Days reference. I remember watching Happy Days. Of course, they were all reruns, but I also remember watching, I Love Lucy. Of course, that wasn't like new episodes weren't on when I was a kid. It was all reruns that I'd watch, on a sick day or something like that. But for anybody that doesn't know the reference, so Happy Days was a long-running sitcom, and it was a good sitcom, but some of these sitcoms run a little bit too long and they run out of like material for the story. So they had Arthur Fonzarelli, which the Fonz, right? He was what was he on? Was he on like a jet ski or something? And he was jumping over sharks on some beach.
No, he was skiing.
That's right. He was
skiing. Yeah.
And so that's where it jumped the shark. It was Arthur Fonzarelli on his water skis. That was jumping the sharks in the ocean. Like that was where the story had gone. It was so bad. Oh man.
Yeah, that show. They hung up their cleats not long after that one. And it was time, I guess, like any other show. I hear there's serious talk about relaunching Cheers. Have you heard this? I don't think I want them to. It's my favorite show of all time, so I want them to.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's been so many of the actors that were on that show that have passed away now at this point. So, I kind of think it's interesting when they do a reboot of a show, right? And then they can throw back to some of the original actors and they come in as like a cameo here and there. Like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe. But you've lost a bunch of those guys.
The only way I could see them where I would give it a shot of watching it is if Woody was the one who owned the bar now. Because Ted Danson is just a little too controversial. Now, he's been very rabid with his political thoughts, and I don't want any politics mixed with the show. So Woody as the bar owner now, and you still have Cliff and Norm sitting at the end of the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are still. No, Ratzenberger, did he pass or is he still around? Cliff, the mailman.
I believe.
Well, you still have
passed. I think he did. Now I have to look that up.
Yeah.
Who knows? Wrath was.
We still have Frasier.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You still have Frasier. You do, but I mean, both the women have passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I want them to do a reboot, but in your opinion, of all the shows out there, I mean, throw all the way back to like the Honeymooners, what would be a show that you think they really could remake and make it successful?
Wow. You know what I wish they could do, but I don't think in this time of like everything's so PC and woke. Family Ties was such a good show.
Mm.
That was really good. But do you think Seinfeld would be successful in this day and age?
I really don't think it's been long enough, to be honest with you. It started in the 90s, and their last episode when they all went to jail, that was it in the 2000s, or did it conclude in the late 90s?
I think it might have been. I was living in Cincinnati at the time, so I think it was probably the early 2000s, 2001, around that time frame. But other actors. I mean, I can see maybe some other actors that come in and fill that void, even on the same set. What do you think? I mean,
well, I mean, at least with Seinfeld, most of them are still alive, so you could do the cameo and stuff. And so its first season was 1989. Wow,
that's what I was thinking. It was like because it went up against Cosby Show, and that was Cosby. I think Cosby Show's last season was 89.
Wow,
because it had about 6-year run.
You know what? And the last episode, so it ran for exactly 10 years, was 1998. So yeah, you know what?
Oh, okay.
It is old enough that they could reboot that. They had so many great actors on there. I mean, Jerry Stiller is no longer with us, but everybody else is. Jennifer Coolidge, Estelle Harris. Wayne Knight, which is Newman. Julia.
He was funny. Of course, Kramer. He's there. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and I always thought she was hilarious because she could say something funny and not tip her hat, not even laugh. Yes. And that always where you can see like Jerry's pretty good not to do that, but he would laugh. And of course, who's the bald guy? Why do I forget that guy's name?
Alexander?
Yeah. So he was he would kind of laugh. But that sort of made it funnier, kind of like Jimmy Fallon when he's on Saturday Night Live trying not to laugh at a skit. It just sort of makes it funnier,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Maybe he looks goofy and you want to laugh at him anyway. Well, what about you? What show do you think could come back and actually be successful?
It would be a little hard to do I Love Lucy, but I thought, Lucille Ball was such a one of a kind, like a Carol Burnett, so many of the other female, very, very strong comedic actresses that they did their own thing. They were them. They didn't try to be anybody else, and they created their own style. So I think, I Love Lucy would be fun, but to be able to get that level of story writing might be the difficult part. But it definitely could be
Yeah.
up to speed. We're no longer in the days of, you could throw back to going back to the days of the working husband and the stay-at-home wife and then stay-at-home mom. You could, open that up, because now at this point in time, it's sort of it's not a new concept, but it's not a majority concept. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you could do that, and then it was just so wacky and zany. Like, it really just would lie between that lead actress and lead actor and the writers to make something just so out there. Because I Love Lucy was out there, but it was the great slapstick that was wonderful for the whole family, and that's
Oh yeah.
where really good comedy is born, when you can tell a joke and get all the laughs exactly on the minutes that you need to get them, and you're not offending anybody. You're not using bad language, and the whole family can get it in different degrees. Like, that's genius.
Yeah. See, for that time, that was kind of pushing the limit with like husband-wife relationship and how mouthy she was, and like, oh, she was great. I love that show. And but I would, and I think probably that's where I don't want to say they stole the idea, but like that show, I think a lot of sitcoms borrowed from, especially shows like Roseanne. We're like talking back to the husband all the time. And so that element, I think, was something that she really made okay to do, because she didn't, with such humor. And like you mentioned, Carol Burnett. I'd love to see her, like, if you could just take a time machine and make her like, put her back where she's 25 and 30 and let her do the show all over again now. I would love it. That woman she is the funniest human being alive. I
Yeah.
still watch those old shows when they're on, and I was like Harvey Korman and those guys. It's just too funny not to laugh.
Oh, so funny. And, I love to watch them break each other. And, speaking about breaking each other, I didn't know what to expect with last week's presidential debate. What did you think that we were going to see?
I was hoping we wouldn't see what we saw, but I wouldn't have been surprised by it, I guess. Honestly, I thought it'd be an argument between Trump, Biden, and the moderators. But I was so pleasantly surprised that two of the most Trump hating moderators CNN could throw out there, they were very professional. They did not get involved in the debate. They just asked the questions and shut up and let them talk. And I thought the two were, even though they were chippy back and forth, I thought they would be a lot more chippy. I think Trump, in a way, sort of took he could have been very mean during that debate.
Yeah.
Like he has before. He's been that way with people on stage before, and just bulldozed over them. And well, I think when he saw how Biden was fumbling, he could have been very mean, but he didn't. And I was surprised about that. And it was just sad to see whether you like Biden or not, it was just sad to see a president in a state like that. And now I think like a lot of people, I don't know about the rest of America, but like a lot of people, after that debate was over, Elizabeth, my first thought was like, okay, who's running the country? Because I don't think it's him.
I think that's a very popular thought, because, and I felt like I could see it within Trump, because we all know how mouthy he is and direct and just that gruff New York attitude, especially coming out and debating someone you already don't like, right? So
Yeah.
I think I saw it in Trump of, oh my God, this guy is like, the country is screwed up, because if he's actually calling the shots, he can't get out a sentence. How could he be calling the shots? Like, who's running the country was my takeaway as well. But I think, Trump was a little nice. And maybe he was coached well. Maybe he was just cooled off from his anger and his frustration, because he's just not gonna stoop down to a level of beating up someone who is not there. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just like beating up your opponent, then like having mercy. And that's kind of, instead of going for a kill shot. And I thought Yeah, I thought he sort of took the high road, even though for people that don't like Trump, he still sounded gruff and still sound, and they're just going to he was mean. Well, they were always going to think that. And I know a lot of my friends that are like big time Trump supporters, they don't like when I say this, but like his policies may be great and all, but when he talks, when he debates, I mean, let's not forget this guy is a New York construction worker. Yeah. A foul-mouthed New York construction worker. That's what essentially. I mean, he might be a billionaire, might be living in Mar-a-Lago, but it's like, people are who they are. You're not really going to change them. So if you want somebody that sounds more like George H.W. Bush, you're not going to get that out of him, or he is who he is. So I think the election probably was lost Thursday night, and they probably will lose a lot of down ballot races because people who are not going to vote for Trump are not going to go out and vote for Biden.
Mm-hmm. I honestly think that if I was a very, how do I say it? Not necessarily far left Democrat, but if my thought process was I'm Democrat, my parents voted Democrat, it's, within me to just vote democratically, I probably wouldn't go out and vote. Like if those are the choices between Trump and Biden, I really think it's just the business owners, the people that are truly immersed in the economy and having to fight through hiring and inflation and then trying to pass it off to our customers and just knowing how hard that has gotten. I think maybe Trump will get a lot of votes from the business people on both Democratic and Republican and independent side, just because there's no doubt in looking back 3 years, we were in a much better place, even though we were in the middle of a pandemic. Financially, we were in a much better place, much easier place to be a small business owner. But now it's like it's made it so difficult for large manufacturing, for mid-sized businesses to the small mom and pop shops. It's gotten so expensive between taxes, inflation, cost, and then labor. What people want to make, when you have people that have just general skills and they want to make $30 to $35 an hour, what comes around goes around. Somebody's going to pay for it, and it winds up being everybody.
Yeah. And one thing just in my line of work that I noticed was, you have investors that like to buy things that pay dividends. We talked about that a million times, and they'll reinvest those dividends so they get that compound effect, which is awesome. If you're especially long term, but there have been more and more. Even I've had some clients that do this. That over the last year have said, hey, instead of reinvesting those dividends all the time, can we start getting a quarterly check? Because they're feeling the pinch of everything. So an extra 2,000 or 3,000 that you have to send in dividends a year, or 5 or whatever it turns out to be, is just kind of putting them back to where they were before inflation kicked in. Like their purchasing power, they're just trying to get some of their purchasing power back. Have you seen? Speaking of that, have you seen the video of a guy going around to this guy who he shops on I think it's Walmart or something, wherever he shops. He puts in grocery orders and he has it delivered. And he said just for comparison, he decided he would go back in and put in
and we are live tonight with JC Schweingrouber of Vista Partners. All right, and we're back.
No one calls all day, and then then as soon as I'm on the show, I get like 3 calls. It's weird. But anyway, so I was saying that he would place this grocery order. So he just went back to one of his old grocery orders from like 2 years ago or 3 years ago and hit reorder. Have you seen this? And it was like, he said, what I used to get for $147 is now a 415 or something. And it's like some crazy difference in numbers. And then when you see people on TV talking about, well, inflation has only been around 20% difference in prices over the 4 years. I'm like, tell that to that guy. 20%, that's pretty rough.
That is pretty rough. I did see that, and I think it was on the news one morning. I don't know which news. I kind of surf around. I watch all of it, but I did see him at one point, and I thought, wow, what an idea for people that 3 years ago, everybody was Instacarting everything, from in my area, it's Kroger and Publix. And, of course, we were all in Instacarting because I really don't think that we truly knew exactly what we were dealing with going through COVID. There's a lot of people, I know everyone has been personally touched in one way or the other. And so we weren't going in grocery stores. And what a great account to be able to go back and say, what did I pay for that? It's in your face.
Yeah, it is. And everybody knows it. So no matter what they say on TV, everybody homes rolling their eyes. So like they realize not only are we gaslit about Biden's cognitive abilities for the last 3 years, they're still gaslighting about prices. Hey, just real quick question. Usually when I'm live, there's only one picture of me on this screen. There's still two. Or am I in like the what do you call it, the green room or whatever it is? Or am I live?
You're live.
Okay. I was just wondering because like I see two of me like moving around. I'm like bobbing and weaving, and I feel like doing Mike Tyson's punch out over here.
No.
So, but it really does. It's a very telling point, and it's frustrating for people. So, yeah. So what was your takeaway watching the debate, other than the whole "let's get ready to mumble" meme that was going around before it started?
I think it was really surprising. We keep hearing so many conflicting things where the president's team and the speaker and everybody, Karine Jean-Pierre. Yes, thank you. She keeps saying, oh, his mental acuity is 110%, and he does this and he does that. And then we go through the debate, and did you hear where his staffers are now coming out saying, well, the president has effective acuity and is quick on his feet from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. After 4 p.m., yeah, he tends to, maybe mumble a little bit, slur, stutter as the day goes on from there. And it's like, what? We can't have a president who has working hours from 10 to 4.
Is that what my little grandma used to call sundowner syndrome?
Sundowner.
Like associated with dementia. It's like, and no wonder they always put a lid on it at like 3 o'clock at the White House every day. And everybody's like, what do you mean you're putting a lid on it? It's like, everybody else is at work. Is this guy taking a nap?
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody. I tell you, the worst part about the debate, I could care less about their golf game. I thought, my God, is this what we're talking about? Like, I'll play you as long as you carry your own bag. I'm like, what? Are we talking about this? I think they should just let him go with that one for a while, so the rest of America can be like, dude, really? And then see where the ratings went.
Well, I really felt like I was back in, the earlier days of before President Trump's term, when he was running for president. And every time he would say something that made sense, that I thought, okay, that would be good for the nation. Sure, I could see where his business mind is. His ego would step in and he'd say something stupid. And it's like, oh my God, can we give him some courses of how to abandon his ego and just be the smart person that he can be? I mean, foot in his mouth.
Yeah, but it's what we've got. And at one point, I don't know if I'd said this to you or not, but like I was watching the debate and I was like, did he just call him Brandon? Like I remember sending that message to somebody. It's like, did I just hear that? He just called him Brandon? That was really funny.
Oh my God.
But anyway, the scary thing is our enemies saw that. That bothers me because, Iran, China, North Korea, Russia, like when America's not strong, there's a serious vacuum in the world, and that always leads to trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So these next few months cannot go by fast enough. However, not long after the debate was over, I think it was maybe Saturday night or something, real later, like different time zones, but Ukraine, Zelensky had said something. There was an article where Zelensky had said he thinks he has a roadmap to peace with Putin. I'm like, no shit. You're going to run out of like a gravy train here in like 4 months, man. You might want to make some peace now while you can. But that frustrated me the whole time because when it first broke out, you and I were talking about this on the show, and you asked me how long I thought it would last. I didn't think it would last long. And here we're still doing this. And I don't know why people keep sending weapons. They should be sending delegates to talk about peace and brokering peace. Not many people have been talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that many people have to get killed? And for
Right.
what? A slice of land that probably wants to be annexed by Russia. I don't know. It's just weird. But anyway, it is what it is, and what's happened has happened. You just always wonder about what the blowback's going to be 4 or 5 years from now on something like this.
Definitely. Definitely. And, I'm always looking at the companies, and some of our companies that we run really is affected by the economy. So, in trying to look at it and say, analytically, where are we going to be to where this company is up and running at full steam again? Because we've been sort of limping along within the recruitment industry and jobs and things for about 18 months. And I finally looked at this thing and I said, it's going to take 2 years. In 2 years, we might be able to see the same pending income as we did 3 years ago. So 2020 was one of our best years because people were at home. So there was a lot of, people moving from one job to the other, and they wanted, home-based work rather than going into an office. And now these companies are turning back around going, why are we paying the lease on this building if nobody's coming into work?
Yeah.
So now people have to go back into work. And even with that shift, it's just the placements aren't happening. There's a lot less jobs out there than what's being reported. And the people that are out there looking for jobs, may they have been recently laid off, because companies have to restructure. So a lot of these larger companies, they're doing massive layoffs. But let's say they lay off 200 people. They're like, okay, guys, we're laying off 200 of you, but we can hire back 150 for lower salaries, for lower hourly, because they have to make that readjustment in the market to be able to survive. And these are big companies. And it's like, okay, when the big guys are doing that, there's a problem. So
yeah,
I honestly, I wish we had better choices. I don't think anybody wants to see another Trump-Biden election again, like ever, please, never, ever. But
well, the silver lining is after this time we won't. So Trump will be on his second term, and Biden, God rest his soul. I don't know. I mean, he's sliding fast. So
he's sliding fast, but there's always Hunter. Can we Hunter Eric head to head?
Wow. You know what though? I mean, I think next time, I think we're probably more likely to slide back toward more moderates.
Mm-hmm.
I think after this election, there's probably going to be a civil war in the Democrat Party. I can hear that among my Democrat friends already talking about how they went so far to the progressive end that it's very socialist. Let's call it what it is: socialist and communist.
Mm-hmm.
And cancel culture is nothing more than cultural communism.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this in history before, and it is what it is. So just call it what it is and stop calling it progressive, because it denotes progress, and there's been no progress, just total division. That's all we've seen. So I think we're probably, hopefully, I'm hopeful. Like, I'm always trying to be the optimist about things, that things will move more toward the moderate side. If Democrats were smart, they would probably kick some of these far left leaning people out of their party, out of Congress, primary them out, and find more moderate, like blue dogs that used to be in the House and Senate, that you can rely on. Probably right now, well, they talk about Gavin Newsom being next up. Well, he's so far to the left, he's wrecked California. His policies are a nightmare, and that's why they've lost so many Fortune 500 businesses that have left California to go to Nevada, Colorado, Texas, Florida. Tennessee has gotten a lot of business from New York and Florida. And but yeah, I guess probably if I had to throw my thought out there for who they probably should start promoting, would be the Kentucky governor, Beshear.
Mm-hmm.
That's a deep red state, and he's a Democrat governor. And he is still very popular. So he's very moderate. And he handled things during the pandemic sort of the way some of the conservative governors did. It wasn't like hardline like Whitmer or Gavin Newsom or even Pritzker in Pennsylvania, because I think people there are sort of fed up with him. So I don't think he would be considered more the moderate kind. But that guy might, and there's probably a handful of governors that probably fit that role that we just don't know about because no one ever talks about them. They're not welcome in the Democrat Party, unless they can bring money. And Bashir, his father was a former governor, so and a popular one at that. So he was. That's why he got a look, and he was in Congress before he got elected. So now if he runs for the Senate in Kentucky, probably has no chance. But governor, yes, because Kentucky, like I said, is very deep red. And that's where my company's at. So out of Frankfurt, the capital of all places, right? So I don't know. It's just politics is a crazy beast, and but I sort of like I don't know. I kind of grew up under the wing of Reagan, right? So we're that shining city on the hill. Our best days can be ahead of us, and damn it, we're Americans. We can do better than this, and we will. I like to have faith and hope in that.
We absolutely will. I agree with you there. And I agree with you on the Blue Dogs too. There's so many of them. I looked them up last week when we just talked about them for a quick second. And I'm like, you know what? I wonder who are even the really active, the current Blue Dogs. And there's so many of the names. I don't even know who the heck they are. It's like all you hear about are the sensational ones. The so far radical ones, the AOC and all those people that just have a loud mouth. Really, in my opinion, not a whole lot between the ears, and they're just loud, So it's like, okay, you're loud and you grab onto these radical, stupid ideas. I mean, I don't know, the whole tax the rich. Why don't you actually look at what they pay in? There are a lot of people that make over the 400, or is it 400 or $450,000 a year?
It's supposed to be 400.
$400,000 a year. They are paying quite a lot in taxes. You have to look at that number that they're making and the percentage that they're paying in. It's like, I don't know. I think that's just a scapegoat. I'm tired of hearing about it. I just would love to hear real ideas that could really be implemented and positive for the country. And you're right, we're Americans. It's going to get better. We are a band of brothers, and that's just, that's the end of the day. That's how it's going to be. We're going to strive for our freedom, our rights, our ability to be able to immigrate here from another country and make something for yourself and your family. And that's what we offer. And we're still going to offer that. I love the ability to be able to own companies that we started. You yourself, you and Gary work Vista Front Partners. It's a wonderful thing to be able to work for yourself and create employment for others. That's what America allows us to do, and the freedoms to speak like we are right now. And many different countries have that.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think one of the things I think probably, I'm not going to piss on any generation, but some younger generations need to understand is we have a right to succeed in this country, wildly successful. And we should not punish anyone's success. We also have just as much right to fail in this country. But don't ever let that define you, because you learn more about yourself and how to succeed through failures than you do just winning all the time, because you're not learning much, And but I'm very, very pleased that actually this youngest generation actually probably is more entrepreneurial than us Gen Xers are. And that is really fascinating when you see the numbers of how many young people are actually starting businesses. And I'm like, you know what? Freaking good for you. Create your own culture, your own business culture. Create your own revenue, your own dollars. Why depend on anyone else to, I mean, I'd love to hire people, but I want them to earn what they earn. I don't want to hold anybody back, And if somebody ever wanted to start their own, I would be like, good. I hope you succeed to your wildest imagination. So
absolutely.
I think that's one thing that we're going to allow people with our country as we bring people on to define their own success and let them understand you are working for you, because it might be under a company name, but you are your own best product.
Mhm.
And we all need that sort of attitude, and we are entrepreneurs, and give them the ability to earn is no limit on it. So
Absolutely. So, talking about limits, there was a Supreme Court ruling that came out today, and it's about presidential immunity. From what I understood, before they even, started deliberating about this and doing all of their research that the Supreme Court does to fact check, I suppose, against our Constitution and see what is constitutional, what's not. This Supreme Court ruling of presidential immunity, let's see here. It's a, of course, a historic decision. Supreme Court ruled Monday that former presidents have at least some immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts in office, no matter their politics, policy, or party, but stipulated that the protection doesn't cover everything. So then I said, okay, what are these official acts, right? The term official acts means any decision or action on any question, matter, cause, suit, proceeding, or controversy, which may at any time be pending or which may by law be brought before any public official in such official capacity or in such official's place of trust or profit. That is a lot of words to basically say that the president is immune to be held in court to be found guilty for anything other than murder, right?
yeah, I mean, we've all seen Murder at 1600. If he kills somebody in the bathroom, he's liable for murder. But and the action of his duties, then I mean, he is commander in chief. They all sort of have blood on their hands because how many times have they launched missiles on something? Right, somebody's died, and a lot of times innocent people. But yeah, that's pretty detailed. And I don't know. Do you think that should pretty much wipe out most of these cases that are lingering out there with him right now?
I think so, because I mean, I'm trying to keep up to what all these different charges are. And to be honest with you, there's so many different charges brought upon
Yeah.
former President Trump that it's hard to be able to dissect each one just as a common person. I'm not a legal analyst. I don't have a law degree. I don't sit there and watch court TV all day, every day. Like, I don't have time for that. So I try to, just pick and choose my information across the board from all different types of news entities. And here in America, we don't have very good news entities. I really don't feel like we get much of the information, if at all, any. So, I know that there's a payoff deal between him and a porn star. The porn star took the stand and said, no, I never had sex with him. So now it goes back to basically his financial guy that paid his money to the porn star and then went back to Trump and said, yeah, I need X amount of money. So Trump paid him. And it's like, it seems like it's very messy to try to figure out, well, who knew what exactly and when and how and who. And then it really seems like unless there's espionage, there's murder. I just looked it up. What can a U.S. president be prosecuted for? U.S. presidents enjoy full immunity from criminal charges for their official core constitutional acts, but no immunity for unofficial acts. The Supreme Court ruled Monday, sending former President Donald Trump's election interference case back to the lower courts. So what is that? Like mommy and daddy saying, no, you need to take a look at your homework again.
Yeah, more or less, because they're saying you have to rule within these parameters. And a lot of times when it goes back to that after a Supreme Court ruling, the cases are usually dismissed. I heard that from a lady on TV today who was covering the case. So not that I know, it's just like I heard her. So I'm just repeat and repeat. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it should. And I mean, as far as the hush money trial, I know that was before he was elected, right? So it wasn't within the parameters of his official duties. But if she says she didn't have sex with him, then why can't he sue her for defamation and what do you call it when somebody tries to like coercion, like trying to get you for money, you know what I mean? Somebody's trying to
Mm-hmm.
extortion.
Mm-hmm.
So why can't he sue? And we've been told a million times on TV, but that paying hush money is not legal. A lot of people have done it, but why is he in court for what was it, 130,000? Did Bill Clinton pay Paula what's her face like 800,000?
Yeah, Paula Jones was paid off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 800,000, but nobody took him to court. So I think it just all at this point looks very political, and like, especially like I said after the debate, this all looks like, hey, they're going to do anything to keep this guy from winning, and like, look, people are going to look at it differently now, because I think more people are paying attention to it now. I think, well, probably your audience is pretty well up on things, but most folks don't really pay attention to anything politically until like right to the end. Yeah. And then like, I love my sister, but she'll be like, Trump's being sued. Like, what? Like, she wouldn't know, but a lot of people are like that. They have their lives. They live their lives. They don't go home and like live and die by the news. And, some of us try to catch a half hour of it a day.
I agree. I certainly remember the years where mom and dad were constantly listening to the news, and I just shut it off. Like, I didn't want to know. It all seemed like it was doom and gloom. And yeah, I mean, I think that we have grown accepting of our yellow journalism that we're fed all the time. The catchphrase that you use, that it happened to be the first time that I heard it, so I can't say that you coined it, but if it bleeds, it leads. And, it's like, God, there's so much good stuff. Can't we just hear all of it in more of a succinct area of where you are? I mean, I happen to live outside of Atlanta. We have no natural boundaries. So Atlanta sprawls. And I mean, from one end to the other is at least 150, 200 miles from one end to the other of Atlanta. So if it leads, I mean, they're going to hit you all day, every day, because that's a lot of population to cover. But, yeah. It's not all bad. And I'd love to hear a little bit more of the nitty gritty. What are the things that they're putting into bills? And what are all these little things? Like, what are the thousands of pages that they have to read through before they vote on some of these things? What's in it? I want to know what's in it.
Yeah. I mean, you can speculate. A lot of it's written by lobbyists, people who pay them. I love that little saying where like our elected officials ought to be like NASCAR drivers. They have to wear a jumpsuit with all their sponsors on it, so we know who pays them. But man, I'm so cynical. That's terrible. But you're right. There's so much more good news. There's so much more good news out there. You never hear about it.
That's a great idea. My mind just ran with that. I'm like a Boy Scout shirt with all these little patches all over it.
Oh, yeah. I thought we'd see Big Pharma on every suit jacket. It's really the craziest thing. But yeah, military companies, all kinds of stuff. But it's I don't know. It's just kind of. I mean, I look at these people. It's like, I know you're all on the grift. They know, we all know. They don't care. It's like, how hard is it just to do the right thing? How hard is it? Like, you want to give troops a raise, right? That's awesome. I think the rest of America would like, yes, let's pay these guys more. These guys and gals that are out there like willing to die for us to live the way we do. But can't they just put a 2-page bill instead of wrapping like 50 other things that I hate, so that you can send money, like 50 more billion to Ukraine and this to here and that there, and funding, I don't know, things I don't agree with. So why do you say like, oh, you don't want to fund the troops? Yeah, just give me a 2-page bill and do it. It's the right thing. Mm-hmm. How hard is it to do? But this is these weird politicians who can hide every little thing in a 1,000-page bill that you and I, even if we had a month off, we can't read that and understand it. Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
You know,
Ridiculous.
so I have a financial question for you, and this was something that I was bouncing off of a couple of family members, and neither of us are educated enough in this to really know what happens to it. But let's say, which it doesn't look like it's practically going to happen, but let's say Biden is removed from the ticket. Now, Biden's campaign fund has been funded to a point. What, it's like $120 million or something sitting in there for his campaign fund. If he falls off the ticket, what happens to that money? Because from what I understand, they can't just give it back to who donated the money.
No, actually, I heard over the weekend from people on TV saying they had sources saying that some Democrat funders wanted their money back.
Yeah.
And they're getting it. One of the guys I saw on TV today, this was on, I think it was on Fox, had said that if that happens, like whoever's in charge of the campaign, I guess the Biden people, would allot who they pass those funds to, which they already said would be Kamala Harris. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how it works, but that's just what I heard on TV. Again, just Pete and repeat, right? So I don't know if it's true, but I would assume, I mean, they're in a tough spot because you can't find somebody else out there to put a political machine together and run for office at this late stage of the game. But at the same time, if they have to do the 25th Amendment and remove him, the heads of the DNC, would the heads of the DNC be able to decide who gets it? Because they would have to go to convention and nominate somebody, but you can't give the money away to somebody till you nominate them, and that's not happening until August.
Yeah,
and hell, at that point, like, who's going to get their message out?
Well, I would think that they would go with someone familiar. The one person on the Democratic side that I know had a boisterous voice over the weekend that said that she really felt like Biden needed to step down was Michelle Obama. Michelle has the following. She's likable. I could see that. I will, I have some thoughts about it. I think it would wind up being a lot of the same that we're seeing right now. She'd have to really get something together really quick to say, what is she going to do for the country? And, going back to what we started talking about, which was the presidential debate between Biden and Trump isn't vocalizing what exactly his plan is. It's just sort of, supposed to be assumed that, oh, well, it was better in my term, which it was. We can't deny that. The numbers are there to show that, yes, it was better financially, at least. That we're just going to go back to what I did. But now we're in a different situation. Now we've had migrants flooding our borders. There's been an insurgency, really, let's be honest with it. There's been an insurgency for 3+ years. There's different things that need to happen. And I'm not hearing it from him either of what is your plan?
Yeah, I tried to watch a couple of rallies but I'm not going to sit and watch a rally for like 2 hours, but so sometimes a couple times I've tried to watch, I just changed the channel or went and done something else. But he's talked about mass deportation, the largest mass deportation in history. Now, people who come here for like we've talked about this before, I totally get why people want to come here. But last month or the month before, they caught over 400 confirmed terrorists coming across the border in 1 month.
Yeah,
and then they caught and released them. Like, what the hell they do that for? Because they don't have the ability to do this. So we have a lot of problems. And you're right. I want to hear more solutions. And that was one thing I thought that Trump in the debate, instead of he was a little proactive, but a lot of reactionary. When he had his closing remarks, I wanted to hear some Reagan type comments of like, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do 3 things in my next term. We're going to cool inflation and work on the budget. We're going to stop the border and start exporting criminals that are in here that are obviously committing crimes in the street all the time. Well, and then, whatever, get the economy back to, decent growth instead of kind of anemic. But he had an opportunity to do that, and he didn't do that. I wanted to hear that at the end of the debate, and I just didn't hear it. And of course, you're not going to get anything like that out of Biden. He's got nothing to defend. And I mean, essentially, I mean, it's whether people like it or not, whether you liked Obama or not, this is Obama's third term with Biden, basically. Because if he's not pulling the reins, like, I kind of wonder why Barack Obama bought a place in Washington, D.C. near the White House. Like, why the hell would you still want to live there? You know what I mean? Like, why do people stay in town when they're out of office? I would be in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
I would be down there with all those sharks.
Right? Oh, and they're empty nesters. You know, both the girls are gone. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of speculation over, you know, who really is the puppeteer? Is it the staffers? Is it, you know, who exactly is it? Because you look at someone so frail and so weak of mind at this point, and the only thing that they have to say for Biden is that he spent his entire life in politics. And, you know, he's been for one thing or the other, and he's been able to eloquently say, you know, I want this, I want that, and understand U.S. Politics, right? I don't really think that's the best thing. And I don't think that Trump is running on the best thing either, because I can put it in everybody's terms where everybody would want to know more. If I stood here and said, I'm going to make sex great again, and that's all I said, what does it mean? Right?
You leave a lot to people's imaginations. I don't know. What does it? So, but like, you know, he says a lot of those things, and it's just, yeah, I'm going to make this great again or that great again. Define it. Define what great is.
Yeah.
And you know, I just want things normal again. I kind of like that. But you know, thankfully, a lot of our government and all these departments, they're kind of self-sufficient. So we sort of don't have to deal with a lot of, you know what I mean? It's like, if the government shuts down, everybody thinks, oh, it's going to freak out if the government shuts down. Has the world ever collapsed when the government shut down temporarily? No. And they always open up, because if they stay closed long enough, we're going to realize how little of the government we actually need in our lives. Because, you know, like I said, I'm obviously very cynical from the way I talk about politics. But when I look at the federal government, I'm just fine with the Constitution. Just do the bare minimum, because I've already got city government, county government, state government. How many governments do I need that's going to take money from us, and like layer on layer on layer of all these things? I mean, why do you need, like, for example, like the FBI that's been so controversial, you know? Mm-hmm. God bless these people for doing the job they do, and especially, like, I'm sure it's like 98% are great people just doing what they can do. And it's always the little things that make people look bad. But did you know every state, not only do they have their state police, but they also have their state bureau of investigation, like Virginia, Tennessee, all of them, Georgia. They have their own bureau of investigation. So everybody has their own version of the FBI. How many damn FBIs do we need? I mean, in this day and age of easy communication, do we need another behemoth like that? Yeah. I mean, you have the federal, like the education department, right? So you have the education department. Every state has its education department. Every state has its Department of Natural Resources. Do we really need a Secretary of the Interior? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't remember, but like, we didn't have a Department of Education in this country until like 78 or 79, right before Reagan came in. Mm-hmm. And what has happened to test scores ever since? Well, not so great, you know. How much money is there? And I know it's a huge lobby and a big union and all that, and teachers do great jobs, but you always have to wonder, like, is there a better way, more efficient way? As business owners, we think that, you know, we're wired to think that way. What can we do better, more efficiently? And do we need, you know, do I need 2 couches in my living room? Or is one just fine?
That's right. I don't know. It always seems like big government just waters everything down. And it's a false sense of security. It's a false sense of, oh, I don't really have to think about this anymore. You know, it's good. It's on a plan. You know, just like the education thing. Oh, I don't really have to think about it too much anymore. I'm just going to send my kids to school, and I get to focus on work or do whatever I want to do and pick the kids up from school. Okay. But do you realize out of 180 days, which are required of school attendance or school learning, right? Because the kid can be 6 and maybe they don't make it to 180 days, but 180 days of learning is required in the United States for K to 12 education. But when you take a third of that, and that third is all test prep and test taking for the state and for the federal exams, so that the schools can then get the certain amount of funding depending on those test scores, that's big business. And I'm not sending my kids to school to be just a nub in big business. So that's what happens when you just sit back and let big government take over. It gives you that false sense of security, the false sense of, oh, it's okay. You know, like you feel like you have a parent again. And mommy and daddy are going to take care of it. They're going to fund it. They're going to run it. They're going to do all the thinking for you. And you don't have to do any of that. And really what's happening is you're losing control of the quality of education your child's getting, the stress level that they have to incur when they're going through that. I mean, when you're taking first graders and put them in front of a computer to do we used to call it Scantron, but you know, a multiple choice test, and it's hundreds of questions. Why? The child could be outside learning.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, what's so sad is like, here's another thing, like, you know, like I'm one to talk with my gut and everything, but you know, you see like childhood obesity going up. Well, when we were kids, we would go out to the playground, we would play. When we would come home, if we might have 30 minutes of homework, we go outside and play. You know, or, you know, so I'm not going to blame it all on video games and all that the kids play now, but I know people with kids, like my good friend Sean was just talking about this yesterday. You wonder why kids are obese now, because they go to school for 8 hours. Like the food there is not the healthiest in the world to begin with. And then on top of like sitting there for 8 hours, they go home and his daughter will have 3 hours of homework. And it's like, so, all right, so they worked 11 hours. I don't work that long. You know what I mean? So, but how do you expect kids to go outside and play and learn and interact with other kids and learn those communicative skills? Because, you know, I don't know. You just wonder. They're, like you said, it's a money thing where they have to have those test scores. And, you know, both my sisters, you know, my sister Tammy, she's a teacher, and but she even recognizes a lot of problems in the schools. And my other sister, you know, God rest her soul, like when she was teaching, she said, I don't like this either. Like, I don't like the way they do any of this stuff. And so like, you know, 2 teachers in the family, because I have a lot of teachers in the family, but here in my immediate family, the 2 that were in schools are like, yeah, this could be done a whole lot better, and this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I have a daughter who she's finishing up her degree to be a teacher, and then she's going to continue to intern, I suppose, while she gets her advanced degree. And that's basically just so that she can make a livable wage. That's a whole nother discussion of our service workers, no matter if you're in the military, if you're a fireman, if you're a police officer, if you're a teacher, you should be paid competitive wages so that you don't work a shift as a police officer and then you have to have a second job. Like, no. Anyway, that's a topic for another time. But my daughter is going into early education. So her degree will be between K to 2nd grade, I believe. Specific learning within those years of child development. And, you know, I can't even tell you how many times, because it's been so many times, that I've heard, especially from our resource teachers, but heard from teachers, you know, when they come in with a completely different way to do something that we've been doing for hundreds of years, let's say mathematics, and say, oh, we're going to do the Common Core method. And it's like, this doesn't, I mean, why? The other way is just fine. Everybody on the planet's doing it that way. So if they're interacting with someone, let's say their grandparent, to do homework, at least they can do homework together because it's still done the same way. And then they introduced this Common Core stuff. It took parents out of the picture because the kids would come home with this homework and they'd be like, well, Mom, I can't do it. And then I sit down and go, oh, okay, we'll just do it like this. Oh, no, we can't do it like that. We'll get it marked wrong. And it's like, you're getting to the correct equation, right? Like the answer's right. All of your work is correct. Yeah, but we have to do it that other way. And then so all these parents were like, well, what the heck is the other way? And yeah, but so talking about finances, as we were talking about, these kids are taking tests for schools so that the schools can be funded from the government and from the state, and it all depends on these different test scores. So these kids are force fed this information just to be able to test on it, and there's really no retention. But in that thought process, I want to segue over to your financial advising and what you do for Vistafront Partners. I know that you had something that you wanted to discuss today about when you have a plan, stick to the plan. What is that?
Yeah. Well, and that, kind of going back to the real quick on the, comment you made just a little bit ago that kind of segues into this. We have that safety net there that we think that we have with these government departments. So like, I'll just drop my kid off, this, that, and the other. Hey, folks, if you're under the age of 50, or under the age of 45, and you think Social Security is going to be there for you, yeah, that safety net, don't count on it. You're not going to get what your grandparents got or your parents got when they retired. It's just, they're bankrupting it. Our government's 30 trillion in debt. Do you honestly think that there's money there to do that? Let's say print more of it and cause more inflation, which in and of itself is a tax because it devalues your money. But so long-term planning, this is something I mentioned last show, that it's important to stay in the market, even though when you have volatility or, even if we were to have a 10% correction this summer, a little more, whatever, going into the election or a recession that comes on or something, anything like that. So why is it important to stay long-term? And I mentioned that, if you missed the 10 best days in the market, for example, during your decade, the difference of what you have at the end of it by trying to time the market versus just staying in there and having the stones to take advantage of a down market and put a little bit more in, because that there's value then. So I looked it up and I found this report by Bank of America, and I found this really interesting chart, and I almost wanted to send that chart to you, but I guess we don't have carte blanche to use that chart, right? So, because it has their logo and all that, and I didn't want to get anybody in trouble, and it's the way the numbers are, like I kind of got it, but it'd be one of those things you have to walk people through to explain. But in a nutshell, Bank of America had done this report, this study, and had quantified just how large, and I'm just kind of reading some notes I took here, just how large the missed opportunities can be for investors who try to get in and out at the right minute. When you talk to an advisor, people that say they can time the market or insinuate they can time the market, I know just when to sell or just when to buy, walk away from that person. Like, I've been in this business for a long time. None of us know that. Not even insiders know that, because the stock market can be a funny thing sometimes. But looking at the data, this is going back from, I think this was from 2000 right around 2000, all the way back to 1930. This goes back a lot of decades. So looking at the data going back to 1930, Bank of America found that if an investor missed the S&P 500's 10 best days each decade, the total return would stand at 28%. Total return. If, on the other hand, the investor held steady through the ups and downs, the return would have been 17,715%. So do you want to time the market, or do you just want to hang in there? Because a lot of times when the market comes down 10 or 15%, that is a buying opportunity. That's like your favorite purse or shoes going on sale, and you want to go get them, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're buying good quality things, you can take advantage of those dips and get the quality, because usually after you have a recession and the stock market goes down a significant amount, or a bear market, the bounce back is great. You miss that entire run back up because you're nervous and don't want to get back in just yet. A lot of people try to do that. And if you're being emotional with your investing instead of trying to be more rational, you're going to lose that game almost all the time. So when stocks plunge, that's just some notes I've taken, the natural impulse is to hit that sell button, get out of there. But Bank of America found that the market's best days often follow the biggest drops. All right, so panic selling can really lower your returns. And this is a quote from this article. It says, remaining invested during turbulent times can help recover losses following bear markets. It takes about 1,100 trading days on average to recover losses after a bear market. Said the U.S. Head of U.S. equity at that bank. So just as crazy as it happened, you remember like in the pandemic and everything crashed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a perfect example of how, because the chart was like a perfect V. I mean, it went straight back up. Look like a check mark. And where are we at now? All-time highs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it just basically tells people that it pays to stay in. You're not trying to find the next Tesla or GameStop, these meme stocks like GameStop or the movie theater chain, and just use good data-driven information to have to stick with your strategy, whatever that strategy is, whether it's very aggressive in the stock market or more balanced, like half in stocks and half in bonds and cash. But the data, this was the craziest thing here. It says here that I wrote down, the data also showed that astronomical returns for any investor who correctly called the 10 worst days of the decade. This is if you could time it, right? This fascinated me. To the tune of 3,793,787%. If you could pick the 10 worst days and know when to not be in there and then buy after. That's crazy, right? But like the odds of winning the lottery, you know what I mean? It's like, what are the odds? Additionally, excluding the 10 worst days and best days would have registered a gain of 27,000% roughly. So, but going back up to that one, if you just stayed in there from like that whole time, but the chart itself that I had actually showed each decade and gave you like the amount of each decade. So you can kind of see, but it was really fascinating to see that, which I guess, so why be a long-term investor? This is kind of what I wanted to get at. First of all, it takes emotions out of your investing. That's important. If you're comfortable with your strategy or having someone manage it for you that knows to buy on those dips and they have cash available for you in the account, that's great. The second thing is you don't focus on day-to-day stuff or like quarterly things. You can care less about quarterly reports. You're just living your life. You're focusing on the big picture, which is important to do. Never lose sight of the big picture. When you start paying attention to the small picture, you lose sight of the big picture, and that's when that picture changes. So that's important. Anyway, the data of why it's important to stay in there, that's clearly on your side. There's clear evidence of why you should stay invested through the long term. And here's another thing. You're going to pay a lot less in taxes if you stay in for the long term. If you were to sell like, your short-term gains, that's if you sell within a year of buying something and you get spooked and you sell, well, like your mutual fund or whatever, well, that's a short-term gain. And that's great. There's no harm in taking gains, not hurting yourself. But the taxes on a short-term gain is whatever your tax rate is. So if you're in the highest tax bracket, well, guess what you're paying? You just ate away 35, 40% of your gains.
Wow.
Right. So keep in mind. Now, if you're buying a stock and one pops up and you're like, oh, wow, then yeah, I get taking gains. Right. So on short term. But if you're a long-term investor, don't mind. Like if you have some money aside for that, that's fine. But if you're just long-term, anything, just one more extra day. If you waited one more day and it was 366 days, well, guess what? That tax rate drops to 15% on long-term capital gains. So that's where the tax rate is at on that. So if your tax bracket is actually the 10 to 15% range on your income tax, well, then guess how much you pay in long-term capital gains? Zero, zilch, nothing. So keep that in mind. You can save some money on taxes.
So I'm looking up right now. I want to know what the tax brackets are at the different income levels, just income tax.
I used to have that handy. I know there's 15, there's 20, is there 24 in the, or is it 25 down, then 28, and then 34 and a half?
Okay.
There's like seven brackets. I know there's 7.
From 0 to 11,600, it's 10%. From 11,000 to 47,000, it's 12%. From 47 to 100,000, it's 22%. All right. So and so on and so forth. So 24% is from 100 to 200,000. From 200 to 200 to 250,000 is 32%. That's a big jump. And then 243,000 to 609,000. This is income, 35%. And then 609,000 or more is 37%. So this is where I get a bit frustrated because, our politicians that want to say tax the rich, do the math. I mean, if you're married filing jointly, if you're making over $730,000, okay, that would be, let me put that into perspective. That's a mid-size company and you're doing well, okay? This isn't the super uber rich. This is, let's be honest. This is not a huge corporation, Jeff Bezos or anything. They're in a totally different category. But this is, you own a mid-sized company, you have 50 or more employees, and you're doing really well. That's where you're going to get this kind of income. You're paying 37% of that. That's a lot of freaking money.
Yeah. That is a lot of money. And think about it this way: all the people that tax the rich. A lot of rich people create jobs. How many jobs has Bezos or Elon Musk created? Tons. And if you want to tax the rich, if you just went to the rich and confiscated every billionaire's money right now, every billionaire in the United States, all those billions of dollars that you would take from them would pay for less than half a day's operation of the government. So where did that get you? Nowhere.
Right.
So, yeah. And they're not, just so people understand the context of taxes, they're not done there. You're not just paying federal taxes, but anytime as a business owner, you have to file something, you pay a filing fee at the federal level, at the state level, and sometimes at the local level. So you're triple feed a lot of times. So you're paying local tax, you're paying state tax, except unless your state doesn't have one, like a few states don't. So you're still paying there. So what are you paying at the state level? Like, 6% or 5% or whatever at state levels. So add that on to the 35 you're already paying, and there's 40% of your money going somewhere else. Now, we're not done there. Every time you go to the gas pump and piss and moan about the gas prices, like you don't have to, because you drove a Tesla now, but you go there, you fill up your tank. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is expensive. Well, 70 cents out of every dollar, roughly, is a tax. Federal tax and local state tax on your fuel tax. So it's like, really? So I paid like $3.20 for gas a gallon just yesterday. So really, when I looked at the Virginia tax and the federal tax, so really, so I just rounded $3. I should be paying $2.20.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that'd be a lot better. It'd be a little cheaper on my on my pocketbook. And then you have to pay local sales tax. And then state sales tax every time you go shopping. And then there's also an additional food tax when you go to a restaurant. There are a list of like 200 and some taxes that are out there. And you think that you're done just paying your income tax at federal and state? No, they're not done with you yet. So literally, if you look at what people spend, they spend well over half their income on taxes in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, they do.
So where does that leave you? Yeah, and you still have to pay your car payment, your mortgage, send your kids to school, go get groceries and feed them, send them away, buy clothes, whatever you need to do, and just live your day-to-day life. And hopefully you might have a little bit of a little bit of money for a vacation here and there. Good luck when 55% of your money is just out of your wallet from the minute you earn it.
Oh yeah. And the sleepless nights, the amount of work that you have to put forward, even, as a mid-sized business owner, to where you're making, what was that number that I said? $735,000 a year. Okay. That's married, filing jointly. 735,000. That could be two CEOs. That doesn't even have to be anybody that owns a company. That could just be a husband and wife that are both CEOs of successful companies. And then they go to file federal taxes at their tax bracket. They're paying just federal $272,000 in taxes. So tax the rich my ass, because just like you said,
Not gonna happen.
we're taxed on taxed on taxed when we go shopping for anything. And then they have state taxes. That's only federal. That $272,000 of
Yeah.
taxes they're paying is only federal. So now you take it and you knock them down. It's very frustrating to be very successful and to be taxed at that level. And then it's that much more frustrating to see, honestly, our idiot, whatever they are, senators, House members, whoever, whatever, president saying tax the rich. It's like, what? They're paying more than anybody else.
And anytime they talk about raising taxes, I'm like, on who? Like, I mean, especially like now with 20% inflation or average, whatever they say it is.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, you've eroded. And then here's the new thing they're saying on TV, like, well, disposable incomes have gone up 16% since then. Yeah, and my inflation's probably been up like 30. So I lost 15% of my purchasing power. They never talk about that or the opportunity cost. Because, if honestly, I'm like a small government guy. If government just get out of the way a lot of times, we, the people, can take care of ourselves and feed our families and make much better decisions for, your family, your kids, and everything else. And a lot of these, experts at these various departments, like you could probably literally eliminate about a quarter of all the federal agencies out there, and no one would freaking know it.
Right.
If nobody told you it happened, you'd never notice. So, I mean, what are they there for?
Yeah.
But I'm glad people have jobs and they're working and everything. That's great. But that's opportunity cost also from an economist perspective. That is opportunity cost. If somebody is dwindling away in a bureaucratic job instead of working at a company where they're actually producing and making things better for society, well, that's brain power that's not going toward maybe a new business that could be started, a new technology that could be developed, things like that. I mean, there's a shift when you move people from the public sector to the private sector. There's obviously a shift in productivity.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we losing with GDP and productivity 5, 10, 15 years down the road with the big government? Mm-hmm. When some people go there just for the stability and the pension and things like that and knowing they can never get fired.
Right.
You don't have an incentive to do well. There's no incentive to do well and succeed. And then when people are successful, if you punish them, then who's going to want to get successful?
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. I completely agree with you. It's tough. It's really tough because the more that you make, the more you're taxed. And it's so hard. I can only imagine if I was a CEO working for a corporation and they're paying me very well. Let's say they're paying me $350,000 to $400,000 a year, which are real numbers. I see the jobs coming in the recruitment industry. I see what people are making, and those are real today's numbers. That one person could be making $300,000 to $400,000 a year, and the company's looking at you like I need a certain level of performance because I'm paying you all this money. And then you go and file taxes. And either you're doing it yourself or your tax accountant calls you and says, oh, hey, I need half of what you made because we got to pay this and this and this and this and this. But, it's frustrating. I wish that taxes could be reformed. That would be really nice. They would get my vote. If somebody would say reform taxes, I'm like, yes, where do I sign up?
I know it's such a simple thing, but if somebody just come out and said a flat tax,
yeah,
how easy it would be to do the taxes. People waste so much time doing their taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's time lost with your kids that you're sitting there doing your taxes. I mean, that's a memory you don't get. So again, opportunity cost of something. And if it was a flat tax, I mean, I'd be okay, right? Like what that one guy say? If 10% is good enough for God, it should be good enough for the government.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then make everybody pay. Like you don't like even those who are below a certain income that don't pay a lot of times, or if you just eliminate deductions, I would be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Would be fair. Yeah.
I agree. All right. Well, before I say goodnight to you tonight, can you let us know who are your customers at Vista Front Partners and what do you need to have to pick up the phone and call you?
Well, all you have to do to pick up the phone and call me is just have a little bit of time, because like I've said before, if you don't invest, it doesn't cost a dime to have a conversation, but not having one can cost you a lot of money over the long term. So pick up the phone and make a call, shoot me an email. Let's set up time to have a Zoom chat or something and just see how you're doing. No pressure. We don't put any pressure on anybody. Who are our clients at Vista Front Partners? Various people who are just getting started in their first IRA and starting a Roth and working their job and making monthly or quarterly contributions, to people that are, very wealthy, that are property owners, that own businesses, that are retired. We got retirees that need, people who are looking for dividend income, like we talked about, to supplement their retirement. Those who are in like complete growth mode, and those years where they're growing, saving for retirement, saving for a first home. Those who are looking to open up business accounts where they can save retirement in their business outside of their traditional and Roth IRAs, where they can maybe qualify for more in a like SEP IRAs, thinking of personal business owners that'll open up. Grandparents looking to save for your grandkids, and custodial accounts. We have a lot of different clients. So we, I don't want to say a jack of all trades. We have some things that we specialize really well in, but we're going to help everybody as best we can to help you decide what goal you want, how you're going to get there, and what to expect along the way. And by the way, I'm going to bug you about once every 6-8 months, talking just to see how you're doing anyway. So as life changes, needs change, you need somebody there that can help you kind of steer the ship a little bit while you live your life. We've talked about this before. Life's too short. I know people who are very savvy and know how to manage their own money, but they'll come to somebody like me and they'll because they want to live life. They don't want to sit around all day looking at the stock market, because they would get lost in the little things and get into that day-to-day thing. But they have grandkids, they have a wife, they want to go on a cruise, they want to enjoy their life, go fishing, enjoy what time they have. Or people who work hours and they want to get home. The last thing you want to think about is like, do I really want to review my 401k this quarter? Or do I want to go look and say, am I making the right decisions, and stress about this?
Yeah.
Those are the people that we work with. Anybody and everybody. Don't care where you start. We care where you finish. That's the important thing. So let's make sure you're on the right track, on the right road, and going where you need to be. Let's talk about what your goals and dreams are, and no better time than the present to get started. So it is a holiday week. I know, 4th of July. Happy birthday, America, and everybody. Hope everybody has a great time.
Yeah.
But if you have some time off this week and you want to have a chat, you're always drop me an email, and we'll set up time to talk. Even do this in the evening times, as you know, coming onto the show. So I have clients that work 9 to 5, 9 to 6, and they'll come home, and if they need to call me, they'll call me at 8 o'clock at night and say, hey, can you got a couple of minutes? And we just take care of what we need to.
That's fantastic. As you were speaking, I thought of an idea that maybe we can explore next show. Do you ever get calls from people that need to create a will, but before they go into that appointment with the attorney to collaborate and create that will, they want to have some financial understanding of, what do I do for this and that?
Yeah. A lot of times they don't really know what to expect, and they know they're going to go in and get that will set up. So some of the things that we'll talk about is, okay, we may come up with a handful of questions that you might want to present to the attorney. Let's put together a list of your financial needs that you're going to want to have met from that will. So let's find the 5 most important things that you're concerned about. And some of it may not be anything financial, but we could work all that into the list. Let's find the 5 or 6 things you're most concerned about. Let's see that that's addressed in that will. And another thing that we kind of talk a little bit about when we get into that discussion, I don't sell insurance, but how are you on insurance? How's your health insurance? How's your job stability? Are you comfortable with that sort of thing? And it depends on the complications that you may be dealing with going into the will. Do we need to look at estate planning? Because that's kind of a different kind of plan and attorney. And I can consult on the investment side of those things, but there's a lot more that goes into estate planning that, takes into like personal property IRAs, things, the way you want to leave things to your heirs, and what circumstances you want to leave them to, so you can get a little bit more a lot more complicated in those types of estate plans. But we'll talk about that. And is that something that you need to consider after the will? Sometimes it is. Sometimes, a lot of times, it depends on, like, again, the complicated scenario you may be working with. But we'll see if it's something that I mean, I don't do estate planning, but we can also try to find somebody local there to help you. So I just want you to, people come with that question. We just need to make sure that you have a list of things that you need to have accomplished from it, and then what we can talk about on the financial side before you go in.
I love it. I love it. I'd love to explore that a little bit more, because I came across, just late night scrolling, but I came across actually some really interesting information. It was a chart of, if you have this, but you don't have this, it goes to probate court, for when someone has passed away. And either they have a will, but these items aren't outlined, so then this particular part goes to probate. And I would like to explore that with you, because you are so full of information and value. You bring so much value to the show that I really love having you on. And if anyone wants to consult with JC, I mean, I've called you, we've consulted before financially, and you just make it so easy. So thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We don't want to make anything hard on anybody. Life's hard enough without being stressed out about this stuff. So, that will question comes up a lot more than you'd think. Another thing, just randomly tossing this out there, is like, hey, should I take Social Security early? That comes up too. So there's a lot of things that will come up, and we address that as best we can. But yeah, I'll be glad to talk a little bit about what you need to prepare to go into a will, to have a discussion about a will. So we can do that on a show.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on to the show. And it was a great one. I really had a lot of fun. I always do when you come on the show.
I have to love the show. And I appreciate everybody for watching. And for those who follow up with emails to me, I really appreciate it. Again, it's jc@vistafrontpartners.com. And you can visit us online at vistafrontpartners.com. If you want me to call you, just click on the Contact Us tab and leave a little note in there. It'll pop into my email at some point, and I'll give you a call.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you again another night, right?
Absolutely. Hey, thanks again. Take care, Liz.
Bye. Take care. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I see all of you, and I've noticed they've made some upgrades. So I see some comments from YouTube, but I don't see it from Facebook. And I see some views from one side, but not the other. I need a second person. Like, this is getting to be too much to watch all this stuff and be able to talk at the same time. But I love it. And I love being here with you guys. Thank you again for watching. As always, we are blessed. You are blessed. Mwah! I love you, and stay tuned for another great